We also found a paring knife, like an extremely sharp, like paring knife, right? From the kitchen, facing upward on the couch yesterday. And no one's
Dad.
taking responsibility for it.
Dad likes to slice his fruit.
No,
It's
no,
for
no,
sure,
no.
Dad.
Do you know how many
No.
times?
Mom.
Like
No
Allie
big deal.
jokes about putting her hand in her sink and it being like filled with like knives and
That's not
blender
your couch,
blades.
though. It's not your couch. Vlad, actually, because I also like to
Wait, you
slice
found a
my
knife
fruit
in your couch?
in your couch, Shai, in the
Okay,
couch.
so like on the couch, but facing up.
I thought it
Blade
was
up.
bad when I kept on fighting Mom's sewing
Blade
needles
up.
all over. So because I like to slice my apples, I don't like to eat them whole. We have a strict
Same.
rule that I have to cut it in the kitchen and then I can bring my plate of
I bring
apple
in
over.
a bowl and I bring it
Yeah.
over because
Mhm,
I
I bring
like
it
to
over.
slice it. I also like to slice
Same.
as I eat.
Right, but
So
I had to give that up.
But guys, honestly, it's like that scene in Indiana Jones here where he's got to make it through, like to get out alive. If I make it through this year alive, it'll be a miracle.
It's so funny. I was just hanging out with Janine and Isabel, and Isabel's like, "Wait, what's it like for your sister living with your parents?" And I just was like, "Let's not get into that." I'm like, it's fun and wonderful and loving.
They're saving my life, literally.
They're amazing. There's
also
a lot
nearly killing me.
Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. This week, I am back with my sisters. It was a big week. We celebrated my birthday. Before we get into the show, just a reminder, if you want to support the show, rate and review us. If you rate and review us and send us a screenshot, I'll get a little prize to you in the mail. All right. So rate and review us. Lily, why is rating and review us important?
It keeps the podcast alive. It's the basically, it's like when you're in a concert and the audience is going wild and it, keeps like the music pumping. That's the audience going wild.
Is it also good for our algorithm?
It's very good for
our algorithm.
Yes,
I think that's really what
it's also good for morale. Want to hear,
and the algorithm.
Your love. We only accept 5-star reviews.
Or not just rate and review us, share us with your friends. If there's an episode you like, just like share the app. Get them into this as well,
Right.
Help build the fan base.
All right. But there's a surprise that might be coming to you because I'm going to unveil some pretty cool stuff here to my sisters. So number one, thanks to our buddies at Take Two Podcast who gave me some really good advice on merch. We now have these beautiful, beautiful vinyl 3-inch by 3-inch Friday Night Movie Podcast stickers. Very durable, high quality, vibrant colors. We have them in two forms. One is the classic FNM Squares logo, and then the classic, not limited edition, but available
That's
edition.
Amazing.
Aphros, aka Lindsay, her design. We now have that on a vinyl sticker.
I would like both.
And then
I will rate and review us.
If you get around to doing that, Becky, then yes. And then last but not least, my own original design, a sticker of the Rocket Pup himself, my Rocket Pup, where I reimagined Rocket as a Rocket Pup. Can you
bring that closer to the camera?
One of these as well.
It's on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So we have one of these. This is 3 inches by whatever the other dimension is because it's ovular. So rate and review us. Send us a screenshot. We'll send you something in the mail. If you've already rated and reviewed us, then send a screenshot of that. Get someone else to send us one. We'll send both of you a screenshot. So for a sticker. So for example, if Becky actually rates and reviews us, I get a sticker and she gets a sticker. With that, Lily,
I'm giving him a look. No one can see this, but I am giving him a look right now.
Lily, Becky, we just had my birthday. I would love a little recap from your point of view.
Oh my God.
Of my birthday.
Oh. I was going to talk about my daughter's first birthday, which is also your birthday. I really need to talk about the birthday cake.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
need to talk about it. So
Go for it.
Shai.
I really want that to be the promo for this episode. the picture of that birthday cake.
It can be. So
Yes,
Shai
please.
and
Happy
my
birthday.
youngest and
Happy
my baby. Birthday. Shai and
Birthday.
my youngest share a birthday, as we know, they're birthday buddies. So it was Sunny's first birthday on the 27th. And I decided I'm going to make her a birthday cake. I've yet to make any of my children a birthday cake. And so for Sunny's first birthday, I was going to do it. I had imagined it was going to be like Great British Baking Show is how I imagined it was be like a showstopper birthday cake, have multiple tiers, homemade cake, obviously homemade frosting. I had planned to do an ombre frosting from white to yellow with beautiful handwriting, wishing her a happy birthday. Ombre means it would. Ombre is like it's gonna change.
You have bad
colors
handwriting.
with the
Who's
frosting.
gonna write the words?
Like Lily, I'm telling you what I imagined. I didn't.
She's
Like,
married
we'll
to an
get to the
artist,
other half of
a
the story.
professional artist.
Ombre is when you start with like one color, so you
color.
start with like a very light color on top, and as you go down the side of the cake, it changes colors. Imagine like a sunset.
So like
it
a
would go from like a gradient, exactly, from like white to yellow. And it was gonna have beautifully written writing on wishing her a happy birthday. And I even bought a special cake topper that says 1 and sparkles. And I was gonna make little cake pop sunflowers to go on it too. There was like a whole wild, beautiful showstopper design. I get into the kitchen, I'm baking, I'm slapping flour and creaming the butter, and I'm throwing things.
Lots of slapping and baking
I don't like
and creaming.
throwing the ingredients, and I'm very quickly realize that I am in an episode of Nailed It. I am not on an episode of the Great British Baking Show. Things are exploding. There's frosting on the ceiling, all over the cabinets. Things are stained weird colors. I baked the cakes in the wrong shape. I have to now cut them into the right shape. I'm somehow short on time. The cakes won't cool down. I can't frost them. I can't do the ombre color. And then as my grand finale, I write "Happy Birthday, Sunny" on the cake, and I spell it incorrectly. And that was her first birthday cake, not even spelled right. It was very disappointing, but it tasted good. And I will share my very embarrassing photo. So that was Sunny's birthday. Shai, how was your birthday?
On my birthday, I had a wonderful day, and one of the big hit presents was from you all. I was extremely touched. The creativity my sisters procured for me, the Oculus
And to
Quest
be fair,
2.
your brother-in-law planted the seed for this.
Exactly. My
It was
brother-in-law
him
did. The
who
Oculus
thought
Quest 2. I'm not usually an early adopter. I'm like a medium early adopter. And the Oculus Quest 2 is in a VR thing. This is the kind of thing that when we were kids in the 80s and 90s, this is the future. You couldn't imagine doing this.
You had to go to like a
You had to go to like the
expo or something like
you had to go
like,
to that place down by the old port in Montreal,
Right.
the Expo Tech
like-
or whatever it was called,
right,
where
and like
they held the science exhibits.
exactly.
And even then
like
when you
people were
did it-
throwing up.
Yeah, exactly. And even then when you did it, like people were just like one block, like just a human was just like a triangle. This allowed me to box in the ring with the guys from Creed, and it transports you to lots of different places. There's a National Geographic game where your job is to
Did it
take
look real?
photos of Machu Picchu, which to me sounds like work, but like the job is simulated.
Also, you
It is.
climbed
And
Machu
games.
Picchu in real life.
I know it was actually overwhelming that it'd be back there. I mean, it wasn't
Really?
exactly
PTSD?
It's not 100%.
just
Do you,
walk up that
do you feel
mountain.
like this is a
realistic.
good thing for people to buy during COVID when we can't travel anywhere? And then
Yeah,
it's like you
yeah,
can
I
be
think-
transported.
I will say, seeing this now, I don't know why like a Nintendo Wii should exist or a Nintendo Switch should exist now that I've seen this thing. This thing's like amazing.
Well, I'm so happy we have spent money on all of those other things for you too on past birthdays.
Well, it was a long time ago.
My
I feel
kids
like,
use the
Yeah.
kids are not allowed to use this. So it's under 12.
Oh, by the time they're allowed to use the Oculus, I
Yeah.
wonder what's going to exist.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
it'll be like them playing with an old Game Boy. That's fine.
Ugh, it's
Yeah,
wild.
the new. I mean, but I played the Star Wars game today.
Oh, how was it?
7-foot Darth Vader. It's more like a movie. It's more like when you go on a ride at Galaxy's Edge, the part that introduces you before the ride. It's more like that. Like I got put. I mean, but it's overwhelming. I got.
Can
put
you
in a
use
ship.
your lightsaber?
I didn't get that far yet. They put me in a ship, and there's a robot talking to you. It's just like Star Tours. And the first thing they needed me to do was like switch on the hyperdrive and pull the thing, and then we went into light speed.
I mean, that's pretty cool. You touch it and it switches on.
Like your hand is like a glove, and you can like push the button and it clicks on.
Okay.
And so we went into light speed, and then something happens to you. You end up face to face with Darth Vader. Overwhelming. 7-foot tall Darth Vader walks up right to you and interrogates you. And then Allie walked in the room, and I jumped because I thought because I heard something moving. I was like, what was that? And then like the dog ran by me and I freaked out. But so far that one has been mostly like watching a fully immersive movie story. But still incredible, like worth the, I think it ended up being with the bundle, like $8 for that piece of the story, like that game. There's 4 different Star Wars games, and I think I paid like $35 for all the games. So I'd pay $8 to be immersed in Star Wars universe. It was wild, and we'll see. I think there is
you have to like fight. Yeah, eventually you'll have to like fight someone.
Eventually, I think so. There is a lightsaber dojo as part of it, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
I know that my wife also filmed me doing some of the activities.
This is my new favorite. This is my rec for this week. This is my new favorite show. I didn't know Showendipity. I didn't know I'd like this so much. Watching you play this game in your living room, looking very like confused yet like so amazed, and being like, is he gonna hit a wall? Is he gonna bump into something? What's he looking at? I don't know. I always found it very fascinating.
Yeah, now you see, this is the kind of thing, if we had a Patreon, Becky, Patreon subscribers could get videos of me in my living room
doing
shadow boxing with Allie. Like,
I was just thinking,
making fun of me.
That's something I think people would pay for.
Yeah, well, I had a plan.
Oh.
Anyways, so
touchy.
if you're interested in those videos,
I'm interested in your idea.
I know you're interested in the videos. You get them normally. You work on the show. So there's that. It's me in my living room chasing around. It's totally wild. A lot of fun. Also, a couple of amazing cameos. In the spirit of our cameo episode, we've gotten very good at sending them to each other. You all surprised me with Jack Desana, the voice of Sokka on Avatar Airbender, and the voice of Callum on The Dragon Prince, and it was amazing. He was so wonderful and sweet and excited, and that was a real good switcheroo because Becky and I have really bonded over Sokka and Callum over the last few months, and that's been really special.
There was a long text chain about which one we were going to get you.
I mean, if you were going to get me none of the ones that I actually wanted,
then we had to do something good.
I didn't know this one existed, to be honest, and this one's amazing. And then Allie got me a really sweet one, which is the voice of Princess Allura from Voltron. I love getting the voice actors, to be honest. The voice actors are a lot of fun because you don't really get to see them otherwise. And she did it totally in character. And that's a show we watch with the kids every night. And she kind of made fun of me a little bit because I stop everything to watch the Voltron transformation, and she threw that in. So that was great.
Cool.
So that's the review of my birthday. Definitely a buy. Something that was less of a buy.
Yes.
Is the most recent Hulu. You'd think it was a Netflix movie. But it's right because like that's I think where the bar is Hulu. Like Palm Springs was, I think, an under
Palm Springs is Academy winning compared to this. I thought Palm Springs.
Well,
Palm
I agree.
Springs wasn't made for Hulu. I think it was made for a theater release, and then they released it on Hulu.
And then this one, which was, what was it called? The Happiest Greeting Card or Season?
Happiest Seasons.
Happiest Season? Season Greeting.
It's the one with Kristen Stewart and
Happiest Greetings.
Happiest Season.
Season's Greeting.
Sure.
Happiest Season.
Anyways, it's the same thing. It's the same
Happiest
thing.
Season or Happiest Seasons?
No, Happiest Season. The Happiest Season.
The other one was the holiday that goes through all of the seasons. So this is different than
very
that.
confusing.
The best is at the end. It's like 1 year later. Mom turns to me. She's like, "Why do all these movies have 1 year laters? Like they all like
they're worried."
Allie would watch a whole movie of epilogues. Allie would watch just the.
I'd watch a whole movie of trailers.
Like even if the movie sucks, there's an epilogue. She's like, "Ooh, I love an epilogue. What happened?"
I do want to know what happens.
Okay.
I like it. So how are we breaking this down?
I'm just going to start. I'm going to start with. I think let's cut to the chase. There will be lots of spoilers in this conversation. We'll do a few minutes on it because we got like 3 sections today. We're going to do this. We're going to do the Zappa documentary and some Mandalorian. But I just want to start here with Kristen Stewart, Dan Levy, Alison Brie, Victor Borga, Mary Steenburgen.
Garber.
Garber.
Victor Garber.
Victor
Who's
Garber.
Victor Borga? I don't know Victor Borga.
No, and I think it's Levy.
Dan
It's Dan
Levy,
Levy.
I know,
The
but
problem
Dan
is
Levy is who Lily went to
grew up
high
in
school
Montreal.
with.
There's
and
not a single-
prom.
There's not a single
And
person.
prom. So that's why it's really hard. I went to school with a Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
Went to prom with him. So
There's not
it's
a
really
single
hard for
person
me to
in
say
Montreal
Levy.
who's calling him Dan Levy.
And also
sure.
Canadian, that's right.
And all of these talented people, granted it's like your typical holiday movie, but it's taking an interesting turn because it involves I would say the best part of it was the coming out story. And this movie was just like a big meh. And I think a lot of people reacted the same way. So I want to start with Becky, who was always going to be the most fired up when something goes wrong. What went wrong with this movie? Because I feel like Becky's probably like offended by this.
I think
failure of this movie.
What went wrong with me is a very simple story arc issue. And I think had it been workshopped better in the script phase or after a table read, it would have been fixed so easily, which is the toxicity with which this coming out story is handled. And I understand that the idea is that the Mackenzie Davis character is afraid to come out to her family because of what they might think of her. I get that. I do think that that's like an important story to recognize, and I understand that happens to people. But in so doing, she is so cruel to her girlfriend and is so toxic towards her. It is a very damaging dynamic to witness, and I think it's very sad to witness. Not so much for Mackenzie Davis, but for the Kristen Stewart character. And so for me,
this like orphaned character, right? Really
right?
Like, oh wow, you have no other family.
Literally,
and this is
like
the best.
the
Right,
nicest
and
person. Like they have given her no negative aspect.
And I feel like because of that, the redemption at the end, the reconciliation, isn't earned. Right? Like that for me is the big problem, is that yeah.
No, I was gonna say, Allie turned to me and she's like, "Oh, interesting. They're not going to end up together because
Mom said to me,
Mackenzie
Mom
Davis
was like,
character is not."
I feel like she should have ended up with
She's
Aubrey
not there
Plaza.
yet. Exactly. Mom,
She should have ended up with Aubrey
Mom was
Plaza.
like, wow,
That would have
there's
been much
not
more
gonna be
interesting.
Your classic happy ending. They're not going to be together. I was like, just wait, Mom. Just wait.
No, and if
gonna
they
learn
were,
this.
it needed to happen. Like it would have been a more interesting movie if that instead happened at the climax in like Act 2. If like we brought that up earlier into more like Act 2, and then you had maybe the reconciliation with the family, or her learning to not be so worried about what her family thinks of her and portraying the perfect image. That kind of becomes the conclusion, instead of it just being this quick little, oh, whoopsie-doo, we got into a fight and now everything's better. And I said sorry and everything's better. Like I feel like it wasn't earned, the reconciliation, because of how like continually toxic and damaging she is throughout.
Take it a step further. I don't think the whole family's reconciliation was earned. I even almost bought Mackenzie Davis. Like I almost bought Mackenzie Davis's like making up with Kristen Stewart, because you do see that she loves her the whole time. She just doesn't know how to manage the situation. So I could almost buy that. What I can't buy is how terrible her and her sisters are to each other, and how the mom is awful. And then all of a sudden the dad, like at the last 5 minutes, they're like, oh, we made up. We shouldn't be terrible to each other. And now we're like the perfect family. That whole thing was such bullshit.
My second biggest problem is the misuse of Alison Brie, who is phenomenal and hilarious and would have played that part so well had they given her more screen time, a better arc, let her be like, I think she is a better dialogue. I feel like she is so great in that. Like she's great. I really have come around to how much I love her. She's great but she's also great in Glow, which is a different role, quite different role. And I really do appreciate her, and especially in that specific type of role. And I don't feel like they gave her enough. And like, of course, Dan Levy was wonderful. Like we're so excited about him, but her in particular,
you can't have him. You can't have Aubrey Plaza and have Brie and make them all serious, important roles. Like somebody has to be a bit of comedic relief. Okay, Dan Levy, fine. But then
why is he in all of their 1 year later photos? Is that because he doesn't have a
literary agent? No, he's a literary agent, and he obviously publishes Jane's book.
Is that what he does?
Yeah, he says that at the beginning. He's a literary agent, and then he is sitting on the couch when he crashes Christmas or whatever with Jane, and she's telling him all about her fantasy novel, and he's like super into it. And so a year later, he's at the table with her at the signing.
Oh, that makes more sense.
You think he was just hanging out with her?
Yeah, I was like, this is a bit shoehorned in there. Okay. I mean, I know he said he doesn't like really on good terms with his family, but this is his chosen family, but like
right. And we also assume he's Jewish, so maybe he's not.
We just assume he's Jewish. My issue I feel the more and more we do this show, the more and more I'm conscious of not criticizing people's like actual skill. So I'm not going to criticize skill. I'm going to criticize here my ability to connect. I have now seen Mackenzie Davis in Terminator, in the one with Steve Carell, and
What's that one?
The one with Steve Carell about the Democratic Party, where she was.
Oh yeah, irresistible.
I just don't connect to her. She is.
I wonder if you'd like *Halt and Catch Fire*, because Mom says she's fantastic in that.
She's really good
about the internet,
but she is.
You might like that.
It's about computers. And the internet,
and I think the beginning of the internet.
The character or not, she is just. I'm not.
Her hair didn't help. That wig was terrible.
I just don't buy her, and as a result, it was hard for me to care. Like, I wasn't rooting for her because of her, not even because of I didn't get to
I don't like her actually,
because I think that those are difficult. Those are difficult situations, and they clearly didn't show us their whole relationship. So
I want to run something by you guys. I think I think it's wonderful that Clea Duvall got to make this movie and made clearly the movie that she wanted to. I'm assuming maybe she didn't get to make the movie she wanted to in the end. However, I find that there's a very fine line, and I think you guys know I ride this line, between mean and funny. And I am assuming she may have thought a lot of the shtick in the movie was quote unquote like funny, like dramedy funny or dark comedy. And I do full on think it just came off as mean. And
that's what I'm saying about the toxicity. It felt like it was more
funny
damaging.
Line when the mom jokes about her Ambien and like buying a racehorse, and I'm like, "Where Steenburgen? Where's more of that? Like you're wasting this incredibly talented, funny mom."
That's a very funny line.
That's a very funny line, but I'm pretty sure that's the only funny line. And I'm sort of like, as every other interaction I thought was so mean. Like I don't really want to see somebody else's family be mean to each other. For an hour and a half. So,
but I will say the bright spots.
Maybe they thought it was funny,
but it wasn't quite mean enough to be Succession, and it wasn't absurd enough to be like hilarious. To like laugh at them. So it was in a bit of an awkward place, which is why I come back to that. It felt by the end more.
I think it misses the mark. Which is too bad.
But I really loved all the actors in it, and I would love to hear Shai's pitch for a remake.
So here's my pitch imperfect for a remake, because I think the story with Kristen Stewart, like I enjoyed the story of the person coming out to the family and the complexity of that, and having someone having someone in Kristen Stewart's character who really loved her and was trying to support her and kind of bend herself into a pretzel to get through that. I'm guessing that is something that people have had to deal with. Mm-hmm. I would just bend the story a little bit, because I thought Mackenzie. Again, this is on Mackenzie Davis. Maybe cast her differently. Or what I would do is make the movie that Levy writes. So have him write the movie. Have the core focus around Kristen Stewart and Alison Brie's characters, either as sisters or as friends, so that's your two heavyweights are those two actors, because those two can carry a movie. Yeah. And if anything, you're supposed to feel like Alison Brie's character, and Alison Brie's story is interesting in it. So, so just cut out Mackenzie Davis and have the love interest be Jane, who is a more neurotic, believable character sister, and do it like that. And so like basically eliminate the Mackenzie Davis sibling, have Jane be the character that's having an issue, who's very stressed out about telling her family, but she's at least a quirkier, more interesting character than Mackenzie Davis, who is just flat. And then instead of the dad being the politician, which is the same plot as the Birdcage, which again,
literally,
maybe this is, maybe there's a reason why it's this, maybe it's autobiographical, or there's a reason, but
right. It seems very specific to copy. Like I maybe it is, because otherwise, like, dude.
Or maybe it was studio interference. They were like, what? Make it like the Birdcage. People like the Birdcage.
Or just politics are really hot right now. Put him in politics.
But I would have made Victor Garber like an eccentric, like one-hit wonder inventor or something like that. Sort of an oblivious, absent-minded professor. And something like that.
No,
he could have the same values.
You know what it is? I think they make him a politician because those are very understandable, non-complex stakes for us to get why image would be important. Like, you don't have to do a lot of work to explain to your audience why, if your dad's in politics, why. And I actually will say, as far as a plot device, it functions, but it doesn't feel very inventive or challenging.
But it's not even, I would say, like, maybe in the 1980s or early 90s.
Agreed.
But like Dick Cheney's daughter is very famously out.
Yeah.
And that has never affected him politically.
I literally turned to Mom and I was like, it's 2020. I get that this is a very important issue, but this specifically I don't think is a thing, like, for a movie. Yeah. To write a whole movie on it. Well, this may happen.
It wasn't a believable device for this character.
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
Why would his character be so worked up?
But I was saying it's like enough that people understood. Oh, he's in politics. Image, got it. But like, you're not doing anything.
She may not want to come out to the family, and that's totally respectable. But like, that it's going to tear down his entire career in Pennsylvania. It was like a little bit
religious, or it could have been that they're like I said, like, oblivious and they don't know how to deal with it. That would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
His career. That's the only reason why people.
He's running for mayor. It's not like he's like running for Senate.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And in like 2 seconds, he's like, oh, whatever. Let's just forget the race.
Although it had one great gimmick, which was Mary Steenburgen's Instagram thing was very funny.
But again, like, it ends up being mean. I feel like it could have been so funny.
Do you feel like you could use her better than just like? Yeah. She's so funny. And she's so fun. She's the best. We need more Mary.
Before we get to Zappa, MVPs and LVPs. My MVP is Kristen Stewart. My LVP is Mackenzie Davis. My MIP is Jane. Mostly because I thought she was cool from the beginning, but I really thought that she was the most interesting of the siblings. And I didn't know that actor. And I thought that was very cool. With an honorable mention to Aubrey Plaza, who had a very subtle acting role. And again, I want to see the movie about that character.
So great to see her play someone normal and subtle, right?
Yeah. That was a huge bright spot. She and Dan Levy and Kristen Stewart were in one movie where they were really good.
Yeah.
I would do the same, but I'd put maybe Jane as MVP.
Yeah, I would say I would probably put Jane as MVP. I would put the dad as LVP. And most improved I would give to I don't know. Alison Brie? I don't know. I guess her character. No, I don't really have a most improved.
She's
the mom? I don't know. No one really improves. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, there we go. Cool.
So moving on, as part of my birthday gift, I asked you both to watch a movie that came out on my birthday on demand that I was been so excited because it's been years in the making. It's been this mysterious thing people have been talking about. Alex Winter of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Alex Winter's documentary on Frank Zappa called Zappa, for which he got unprecedented access to Zappa's insane, meticulous family archives and did this like wild restoration job on some of this film. Because I've seen clips on YouTube or in other documentaries either related to or like some of the clips that were in this, and I had never seen anything like that clear before. Anyways, the documentary came out and it is quite long, which is tough for me, but I asked you guys to watch it.
You're a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan, but I have also some like interesting reactions to this because I'll say from the top, I thought this was phenomenal. There's a reason why it's getting such great reviews. But considering that I am a big Frank Zappa fan, it did not go in the direction that I expected, but I liked it enough that I've now watched like more of it. Like I watched a whole half of it again just to reabsorb parts of it because I found it so interesting. But before we get into like evaluating the film and all of that, I just want to know from you both, because you've been around Frank Zappa because of me for 25, 30 years. What did you sort of know going in, and what did you learn or surprise you based on the documentary?
Going in, I knew that his songs were very strange and all sorts of like, I associate it with like, honestly, like weird music that I can't really listen to. But then sometimes really, really funny songs that would like shock me and take me by surprise. And I'm like, oh, so that, and I associate it with being little, like probably like 11 or 12, I'm guessing, and you babysitting me. And the activity would be that you would give me a list of like artists and songs, and I'd have to go through your room through all the CDs to find them and listen to them. When I was done listening, I'd like, tell you I was done, and you'd give me more. And there was always like some like weird Frank Zappa songs on there.
I gotta play that game with my kids.
It's
I do stuff
amazing.
like that to them now. They don't appreciate it.
And I definitely, so that's what I associate with it, but not something I would ever listen to. And I think what surprised me the most is that he never did drugs, which seems insane to me given the era and the music he created. But when you learn more about him, it makes more sense actually in his character. And the other thing that surprised me the most about him, because again, I really knew nothing about him, was the way in which he was politically active. And I found that to be really, on that one hand, and it's put really perfectly in the documentary. I forget which woman says it. She goes, he was an absolute contradiction in every which way. And I will contradict myself by saying he was completely consistent. And so that's what the way in which he was politically active made sense, is that it doesn't make sense, but it somehow fits into to the way in which he created music and art and stood up to the man in industry, but then also understood it in a very deep and like emotionally intelligent and intellectual level in order to confront it in the way that he did. Like, it's just, it kind of, I feel like I need to watch the film 2 more times to really start to understand him. So I have a new gained respect, but I'm not really interested in listening to his music.
They did pick, I mean, to Alex Winter's credit, there is a lot, and I was reading a review that said this, there's this period from like 1970 to like 78 or something like that, or 79, which are like his most likable, accessible music, particularly in like the mid early 70s. And that was not featured in this movie almost at all. It heavily skewed to his more avant-garde stuff. Like, they didn't even play this song Peaches and Regalia, which would be one of the most known instrumentals. It's on Hot Rats, which he references in the movie, but I don't even think it's in the movie. And like Fish is played many times. Like, many people, the inroad to Frank Zappa was hearing that I know was hearing Fish play Peaches and Regalia, which is this very, very memorable instrumental.
What I will say to that, sorry to interrupt you, but that one of the comments that's made is that he never wrote a hit record. And why didn't he write a hit record? Because he specifically didn't want to. And so I feel like that's a little bit of the messaging with the film, is that we're not going to make it easy for you. We're going to make it easy for you because we're going to give you all this great stuff. So maybe that was like the balance of his music, that like some of it was very accessible and some of it really wasn't. Well, it's very accessible, this film, because it's talking heads, it's archival, they're showing you, they're giving you the information, but musically you have to work if you want to get into it and appreciate it. And kind of that like push pull, that it sounds like how he was described and how his art was described. So maybe that was the conscious choice not to put it in, to not make it too easy for everyone, to make him so accessible.
Very cool.
I don't know.
Very cool.
All I know is
Lily,
that
what did you like?
I remember when you started getting into him, and I can see the CD in your room, like literally, as if it was yesterday. And I remember having a realization when you would play Frank Zappa of like, wow, I guess I'm not a rocker. Because like, I like music, I love rock concerts, I love music in many different forms and many different styles. But like, I feel like there's like then, that a little bit like a bridge too far. And for people who appreciate and love, I mean, his music, I'm like those are rockers, like real rockers. And I remember being like, wow, that'll never be me. And I'm okay with that. But Shai clearly is a rocker and like into music in a level that I could probably never get to. Because I appreciate his persona, his artistry, and his authenticity of like consistently being himself, and the amount of people that love him and the following without having a hit record. But again, like Becky, it's incredible that this person is so famous and so talented, yet it's nothing I'm interested in listening to like on a consistent basis ever. Which is weird, right? Like to have somebody that
Shai, can I ask you a
beloved.
question?
Yeah, so for me, I would just say
I had a question for Shai too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask what I want to hear for you what you learned and what was surprising. I want to hear those answers, but also if you could add on to that, what was really satisfying to see told or represented in the movie.
So for me, this was actually at first a quite dissonant experience. Like my sweet spot of Zappa is that part that I was talking about, which is this incredible period in the 70s all the way through the early 80s, although I've been listening to a lot of him in the last year, particularly his live stuff, of the musical virtuosity. And I mean, every single person who played in his band, you could make an argument for them being the best in the world at their instrument. The drummers, just me as a drummer, Vinnie Colaiuta, Terry Bozzio, among a bunch of others. I think they showed clips of Ansley Dunbar. Like, these are some of the best drummers ever to be in popular music. And Steve Vai, who is interviewed a lot in the film as is one of the main voices, was one of his guitar players, while himself not famous for his own original music, is considered one of the greatest guitarists ever lived in terms of the complexity and how he can play and virtuosity and all that. And so I was expecting a big emphasis on that, a big emphasis on Zappa the Taskmasters, on his bands, on some of these big moments like his late 80s tour that kind of fell into shambles, but had all these big ambitious moments like covering Stairway to Heaven with horns and all this stuff. And it didn't do any of that. It focused really on him, and I read this in a review, is either Variety or Rolling Stone who said this. It really focused on that line that Gail Zappa talks about at the beginning, which is Zappa as a composer. It completely reframes like people like me who got to Zappa through Fish, but also in a funny way through Weird Al, who's also deeply influenced by Zappa, but particularly more his novelty songs. And the time I met Weird Al, we had a conversation about this because Weird Al has a Zappa tribute song called Genius in France. And when I met him at that Comic-Con, we talked about it. And that was really awesome to get a chance to talk to him about that. My route into Zappa had been more along those rights, not in his very dissonant, strange compositional stuff. And this really, I think, the thesis of this, and maybe why the Zappa family allowed Alex Winter to do this, is that his thesis wasn't to go in and give you the same old story of Zappa the iconoclast, Zappa the censorship fighter, although they talk about that, but they don't really talk about his music as much as they talk about him as this creator and this composer. And that to me was both unsettling, satisfying, and really eye-opening, such that I really went back. I watched the last 45 minutes of the movie over again, starting with the part where they talk about him standing up against censorship in the United States. And that, by the way, had a huge influence on me. So for a guy who doesn't read a lot of books, I have read 3 different Zappa biographies in my life. So I know the story of Frank Zappa pretty well. And this really wasn't about telling the story. It was really about highlighting this bigger concepts about him. But there is this stretch towards the end, which, admit, I was really tired, so I kind of nodded off the first time, but I wasn't sure if I missed anything. The stretch toward the end where they're just showing him conducting or playing with I believe it's the Modern Ensemble, is one of his last live appearances, playing what I think would be eventually on the Yellow Shark album. And they just have that interspliced with just these images from his whole life. And I felt like that was like this beautiful montage, and they just slowed it all down. Whereas for me, Zappa is this hyper frenetic, spastic music, and they slowed it down. And even the archival footage, again, I was like, how, and Becky, this is a film question for you, we can come back to it. How did they do that? Because I've seen footage of him over the years, and I've always been like, why does it all look like garbage? Whereas this all looked like I was looking at like Blu-ray. which was
So
amazing.
my two best guesses to that are they're accessing film that has been better preserved. If it's coming from his personal archive, chances are it's been much better. You said they had he had, unprecedented access to Zappa's personal archive, right? So he probably, in addition to having all those recordings, had an insane amount of film. And I'm guessing it had been preserved in a much higher quality.
Properly.
And then number two, he would have had Alex Winter would have had the correct funding, or a good producer who put the right resources into proper restoration, and restoration technology has obviously, has come a long way. So I think those are the two key things.
Alex Winter said his company spent 2 years restoring film, and that they basically became a film restoration company for 2 years in order to do this film.
Right. And so my guess is that since they didn't have to pay I'm assuming they didn't have to pay to license, a lot of this, if they did it in conjunction with the family and with the family members that run the estate, if they didn't have to pay very much in licensing fees for footage and music, then they could put that money and resources into. And it was produced by one of his children as a producer on it. And from what I read, that's one of the two children that controls the majority of his estate, or of his legacy.
Unfortunately, the family has really degenerated, and none of that is in the film, and maybe that's not relevant to the film, but the mother,
I don't think it's relevant.
The mother, Moon,
because it's after his death.
The mother, Moon, and Ahmet are in one camp, and Dweezil is in the other camp. And Dweezil, who is a gifted guitarist,
there's a fourth kid,
Diva, but you never hear about her. But Dweezil tours under the Zappa Plays Zappa name and plays his father's music. And there apparently is a big injunction against him from the other family members that won't let him do it. And it's a big fight over money.
So sad.
And yeah, it's really sad. We'll never have that. You will always be able to use the Friday Night Movie archives.
Careful what you wish for. Some embarrassing stuff on here.
And Lily, did you have a question for me?
Yeah, what is he? I mean, you're a rocker, man. You listen to Bob Dylan, to AC/DC, to Weird Al, REM. I think you have quite a. I wouldn't say the largest, because there's some stuff that I like you don't like, but I think you have an amazing portfolio of music that you love and that you play and all that. What does he mean to you as a musician and as a lover of music?
For me, Zappa is, so first of all, as someone who never was interested in drugs, Zappa always meant a lot to me, that there was this outspoken genius who created things that were mind-bending and was like, drugs are stupid, they're a scourge. And as a teenager in the world growing up as a musician where everyone thought it was so cool, for me, Zappa, that one thing about Zappa was oh, it's okay to be a genius. Not that I'm a genius or in any way with Zappa, but it's not all oh, John Lennon was on acid and that's when he wrote his best music. To me, I always loved that about Zappa. He was always pushing against whatever people thought was the normal convention, and I identified with that a little bit. The other thing is that I am very, very, very far on the I don't like censorship. It's this very, very, I'm very much in the freedom of speech camp for the mostly. I have a very high threshold for which I would restrict speech, and the envelope pushing and the insanity of some of the lyrics and the music that he's done is part of the influence of that on me. Is that I liked the conversation he forced by doing the things that he was doing. And so there's that. And then I really appreciate just his wit. His wit is amazing. So smart. If you ever you can find them on YouTube. I'm pretty sure the Senate hearings where he goes and he just takes apart the arguments against what he's talking about. And even in that clip where they show his argument for putting the lyrics on the album and being look, totally understand parents want to decide what's okay for their kids. Let's just put all the lyrics on the album covers, and that way everyone can decide for themselves, but don't put a parental advisory sticker on this.
Interesting.
And that was his argument. And those are very practical ways. I like that. I think similar to him, I don't agree with everything about. And then of course I love the music. I love listening to the virtuosity of the music. For me, there's this series of albums that I collected over the last year called You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, which is just hours and hours of his live stuff. And for a guy who was so disciplined, he was also so incredibly improvisational also on stage with his music and stuff like that. So just amazing. So it's all of that. And then yeah, and I but there are things that I don't like about him. It seems that he was a really difficult person to be in a relationship with, and his attitudes towards his wife and his children were strange at best.
Always with the excuse of, because I'm an artist, or I'm a, which I always am like, I don't think you need to be an artist to treat people badly. You could just
didn't do some of the terrible things other musicians have done to their families, but he also I think, left some scars. So for me, I would say, just to tie it back to this overall, I thought this was really powerful, but it's like Becky said, this is not playing the hits.
But that's what I will say, what's so interesting about it, is that it's not playing the hits.
So Rush is Beyond the Lighted Stage, which is one of my favorite rock documentaries, is very accessible. If you don't know anything about Rush, you watch that movie, you come away thinking, I love these guys. Because it goes album by album. It's very chronological. It's very much about their characters and their personalities. And it's amazing. This is kind of like the opposite. It's like if they did the Rush documentary, but only did it on the obscure instrumental tracks. The other thing is that I immediately today sat down, put on headphones, went on Spotify, and I listened to the whole Yellow Shark album, which I never would have picked up when I was a teenager. But my appreciation for it is much deeper now because of the film, and especially because of that last 10 minutes or so of the film where they're just playing the music. Lily, how about you? Ready for me to give you a new Zappa mix?
No, I won't listen to it.
Fine. I would just say watch the movie.
Okay, cool. All right, let's talk now from the virtuoistic to the, I would say, you know what? If we had an LVP in the first movie and we had an MVP in Zappa, we now have an MIP, a most improved, which is Mandalorian, which had gone from, I think, a really cool Western show in the Star Wars universe, which to me now, up to episode 5, just mind-blowing. Spoilers.
Wait, was episode 5 the most recent one?
Yeah, the one with Ahsoka Tano. And the reveal of Baby Yoda's name.
I didn't have a
chance to watch it yet.
Oh, okay. Then we'll talk about it.
I watched two. Should we talk about it next week? Because I had to watch these 2. I actually watched the 2 movies that were assigned. I wasn't watching just extra credit stuff. You don't get the bonus question.
I just assumed you were watching Mando every week anyway, because it's.
I was watching every week, but we decided on this topic on Friday afternoon. So Friday night, I watched The Seasons Are Coming, and then
Becky, you did a good job. So next week we'll get into Mando.
I hedged my bets. I spread out the probability of what we would discuss.
Well, then I'm just going to do a Mando themed game. My daughter, the creator of Friday Night Junior, she has proposed and come up with a new game, and it is called Who's Who. All right, Who's Who can be played in 2 different ways. It's like a regular Who's Who or a reverse Who's Who. One way is I give you 3 people in our family and 1 fictitious character, and you make the argument as to which of those 3 people is that fictitious character. Or I give you 3 fictitious characters and you tie them up, and you pick which of them is a particular person. Or you can do 3 by 3.
I barely understand the rules of this game. We're going to have to play as we go. Okay.
So I'm going to just switch this around.
I feel like rules written by a 9-year-old.
No. This game totally holds up. Okay. So right. I just need to.
Maybe you should have her write you instructions.
Okay. So if mom were in, this is a regular Who's Who. This is a reverse Who's Who. If mom were a character in The Mandalorian, and I put these 3 in front of you. The Nick Nolte character from the first.
Nick Nolte?
Oh, because I was going to say Frog Lady, but she take care of her babies.
Who's Nick Nolte?
Nick Nolte, the little small guy from the first season,
with those big animals.
I have spoken. He says, "I have spoken."
Oh, I love that guy.
Okay, so Nick
How
Nolte.
did you not know that, Becky?
That's Nick Nolte.
Yeah, his voice.
I don't. You know what?
I have spoken.
You know what?
He's on a suit, right?
Let's look at the costume, and I'll let you know why I couldn't figure out it wasn't him.
I mean,
it's his voice. It's like
he kind of looks like Nick Nolte without makeup.
All right, we're going to do an app just on identifying voice characters without using Google or IMDb.
My kids are amazing at it. They're watching animated stuff now and be like, so-and-so was a side character on an episode of Boss Baby. I'm like, no, they were. Oh, they were. That's amazing. I got them to watch Flight of the Conchords just because Rhys Darby is a character in Voltron. So I watched like 4 episodes of Flight of the Conchords with them because I think
it's a great show. That's a great show.
Who would Mom be in The Mandalorian and why? Nick Nolte's character, the I Have Spoken, the Frog Lady with her babies, or Timothy Oliphant as the Marshal.
Frog Lady, but she would take care of them.
100% she's Oliphant.
Baby eat them.
He's 100% Oliphant, stealing people's armor. She is scavenging people's armor. She's swashbuckling around town. She loves to be in charge. She loves to be in charge with no one putting her in charge. That is like her MO, is to walk into a room and be like, I'm in charge now because I'm wearing the right outfit. So she is 100% Oliphant.
Okay, so now we'll play a regular Who's Who, I think, or a reverse Who's Who, I'm not sure. Baby Yoda. Which one of the
Asher, my second child.
No,
100%.
not us. Of us 3 is Baby Yoda. Shai, Lily, or Becky?
Maybe Shai. Definitely.
Well, I feel like I'm the most adventurous eater, so it could be me.
Oh, I guess you are a very adventurous eater, but you are way louder.
Eggs.
Yeah,
you all sorts of fancy and gross eggs.
But then I would
duck alive in it.
He's pretty stubborn, so I guess that is kind of like Becky.
I mean, also, if you follow the most recent episode, not sure if he's good or he's bad.
But then he could be Shai because everyone likes Shai best, and everyone likes Baby Yoda best.
Could you imagine if they had little Funko Pops of me?
Oh, I would buy those for sure.
Oh, that would be a good
Funko Pops of our
Patreon.
3 little characters. That would be
good.
Shai, get it? Yeah, Becky. Shai, spend more money. Make Funko Pops of yourself.
How much could that really be? Like $30?
I don't know. Lily spent God knows making me the 3D printed version of the Pancake Man that stands on my mantle. Yes. That's one of the few things that's allowed to be displayed not in my office, like on the main floor, along with the fancy lightsaber and my Art of Avatar the Airbender book. Until that'll get moved downstairs eventually. All right. So we have thus introduced the game Who's Who, created by my daughter.
I like that. Who would be Baby Yoda versus a reversed one? Who would you be of those 3? Got it. Okay.
Got it now?
I just needed
has been created.
A play as you go situation.
That's awesome.
Thank you to my oldest daughter. She was very, very, she pitched it and everything. She's like, Dad, I have a new game for the podcast. And it's pretty awesome.
That one is going to be running this show before we know it.
Exactly.
We will be working for her.
We're going to be able to leave it to her when we...
By the time it's her bat mitzvah, we will be working for her.
All right, let's go to our Recs and shout-outs. Lily,
I'm going to shout out... Umbrella Academy, which I stand behind. I'm sorry. Stand behind it. It's cute.
That's a choice.
It's comic-y. It checks a bunch of boxes. Mom gets to watch something again because Mom loves to watch a show and then rewatch it. That's the Shai in her. And then there's enough like action and betrayal and some like violence for Jose. And it for me it has like a cute comedy aspect, so it's not like so depressing. So watching that, we might need a new show. Though I could be open to some recommendations for the fam.
A reverse Rex and shout out.
I think that a show that, first of all, Friday Night Dinner, I don't know if you're watching it, but Becky, you seem to be way ahead of me on it. I love the fact that when
I had to slow down. I had to slow down because I'm watching it too quickly and I had to try and watch other things the last few nights.
We watched the one yesterday with Auntie Val when Adam has dated Auntie Val's daughter. And
their niece.
Father and mother are in a fight all night, but also just the fact that Auntie Val and the mother always dress the same, and there isn't really an explanation.
But you haven't seen the one where the grandmother gets stuck in the trunk of the car, have you?
No, I don't think so. I saw the one where she got stuck outside in the bikini, though, and that was one.
No. The one where you're gonna lose your mind. You will lose your mind when the neighbor finally weasels his way into dinner, into the Friday night dinner. You will. I was like, it's I need to I feel like we need to do a live stream watch and watch it together because it's too much.
Schmoigel. Lily, have you gotten to that episode yet?
No.
Episode
No.
5.
You're not even on the Schmoigel?
No,
The
not yet.
Schmoigel's the best.
Guys, it's not like I have time. Like I have little humans. But what was I gonna say?
Now you seem to have time to watch the seasonal holiday card movie or whatever it was called.
Well, because I did it for the podcast. At 9:00 this morning, as soon as I woke up, I woke up at 6 and I went back for a quick.
You and I wake up
nap.
at the same time.
No, I woke up at 6 with my baby. Then I got a quick baby. I handed him off to mom. Had a little quick extra little nap, and then by 9 I was like, game time, guys. We got to watch this for the pod. I want to shout out to my little man, my 4-year-old, who is extremely allergic to dairy and tree nuts, and so he's never had a grilled cheese. But we found this vegan cheese that tastes really good, and it doesn't have
lots
nuts.
of vegan cheese in my house waiting for you. I buy it on a regular basis at the store just so that they know there's a market for it, so
you're so good.
That when you come, people will know, so that
they don't take it off the shelves.
Exactly. I go in and I buy 5 when they're there. I just buy them all. I'm like, oh, they're gonna be like, whoa, we better keep these on the shelves.
You're so sweet. I love the way you think about it. I'm not sure it works that way.
Gotta spend money to lose money, Shai.
Yeah.
Gotta spend money to lose money.
And so I prepared his first grilled cheese. Now I previously tasted it. Mom did too, and we both gave it the thumbs up that it tastes more than enough like cheese, like a Kraft single type cheese. So it's fine. So I made him a grilled cheese, and he's watching me, and he goes, "Tell me the recipe," because he loves Nailed It. And I tell him the recipe, and then I give it to him, and he takes a bite, and I was like, "Did I nail it? Did I nail it?" And he goes, "You nailed it, mommy." And I was like, "Oh, that's so exciting." And I was like, "Did you like it?" He's like, "You nailed it, but every single bite is yucky."
You could be on this podcast too.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh,
best line I've ever heard.
You're so sweet." And he's like, "I will not be eating this." And he handed it back to me. He's like, "Nailed it." I'm like, "Oh, I don't think you understand how that works." It's so sweet.
So sweet. He's such a sweet little man.
I'm still gonna work on that grilled cheese. I really want him to be able to eat one.
I recommend the movies we watched for this for this pod.
I mean, I kind of recommend seasonal holidays or whatever.
I don't not recommend Season Greetings.
Yeah, I think people should watch it. The actors in it are still good.
Yeah, it was still good enough. It was I watched it while I did the dishes.
Don't be surprised if everybody.
I have to tell you, no, but I watched it while I was doing the dishes and folding laundry, and it was fine. I wouldn't say let's cozy up and watch it together. Well, it's kind of a bust, but yeah. But it's a great background movie.
Yeah.
All right, that's all.
Do you have any shout outs or anything?
I want to shout out to my wonderful brother and sister and family for making Sunny's first birthday very, very special, even though we were all far apart. So, that's really it. Just thinking about you guys this weekend, missing everyone a lot with her first birthday.
So my rec is we rewatched The Rise of the Guardians, a lesser known DreamWorks movie that turns Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
I've Easter
seen that
Bunny,
with you,
the Sandman, the Tooth Fairy, and Jack Frost into superheroes protecting children's sense of wonder. And they team up with these kids to fight Pitch Black, played by Jude Law, who's the boogeyman. And it's just gives me the feels every time I saw it on an airplane. And I cried when I saw it. Allie wept during the movie last night. I don't usually cry. But it's just a really fun one. The kids really liked it. And Alec Baldwin plays Santa Claus as a Russian crime boss, basically, and Hugh Jackman plays the Easter Bunny. For some reason, they make him hilariously Australian and with a boomerang as his weapon for fighting bad guys. And Isla Fisher, and it's Chris Pine as Jack Frost. Anyways, adorable, fun, underrated holiday classic. And that's my big rec, other than Friday Night Dinner, which I am just loving watching. And to close out
Friday, hold on. Friday Night Dinner is a classic build. Every episode is funnier than the previous for the most part, because you're building on the rapport, and on the jokes. And the more you hear the same joke over and over again, the funnier it just gets. So,
and also you have to see that different episodes have different people be the focus of the sort of mean humor. So there are some episodes where they're just so mean to Adam the son, but then in the next episode, Johnny and Adam will team up together. or the whole family will team up like in the Mercedes episode. And that's a really amazing
it's
thing.
just
Hello,
Chihuahua. I'm telling you, the one where the neighbor comes for dinner.
Okay.
Start dying.
We'll watch that tonight. Becky, where can people follow you?
At Paper BK Princess on Twitter.
Lily, where can people follow you?
Chi-Chi. CHI K Gomez on the Twitter.
And before I say where you can follow me, let me note, we now have, as I said at the beginning, we now have Friday Night Movie high quality vinyl stickers. We have the original logo here. We've got the Aphoros created by Lindsay, the one we use as our backdrop at Comic-Cons, this amazing scape of us podcasting. And we've got this other one, which is my design of my dog Rocket reimagined as a rocket pop. If you review us and send us a screenshot, tweet it out, email it to us, whatever, we'll send you some stickers in the mail. Tell me which one you want as your favorite. You'll probably get more than one though. And if you've already reviewed us, get someone else to do it. We'll send both of you some stickers. It's a great time of the year to be sending people presents, and we'd love to do it. So when Becky does hers, I will send her some stickers. And with that, you can follow me at Pancake for Table on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow all of the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Friday Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram, or FridayNightMoviePod.com, where you can also see the glossary where we have all of our games, where I'll be adding Who's Who later. We, as a family, are supporting the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Check that out. They're doing incredibly important work protecting the United States' democracy. Again, just because the election is over does not mean the fight to protect our democracy and voting rights is over, as well as the Equal Justice Initiative. So check both of those out. And our theme song will kick in post by What Does It Eat? That is by What Does It Eat? You can check all of our music out on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere where you get songs.
It's exactly like Frank Zappa. So if you're
no, but I would say he's an influence. But,
I'm sure.
But you can't hear it in the music.
You can hear it in the lack of drugs.
There we go. That's the connection.
And with that, I think that's the end of the episode. Love you guys. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
For the record, I would listen to What Does It Eat over Frank Zappa any day.
Any day, I do.
Which documentary I'd watch? I don't know.
Listen to
how boring would the documentary about me and Howie be?
It would be about like Herzliya.
They both got good grades.
They're both nice kids who get along with their moms.
Thanks again for the Oculus. It's so much fun.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I'm tired from it from yesterday, so I had to take a break. And the good thing that Star Wars video is mostly just standing.
No, but eventually you're gonna fight and have to run and stuff.
All right.
I don't know about that.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye. At least you don't have to make soup like Zelda. Imagine. Like an extraordinarily expensive virtual reality.
Imagine you're just standing in the kitchen for 2 hours
not cooking, and you actually can't get to eat it.
Zelda VR game. You're running around the kitchen for 2 hours, but you're not making anything.
You don't
fixed would Allie be at the end? Everything's been taken out of the pantry and the stove is on. You've accomplished nothing. There's like 3 pebbles and a rubber band and a pot of water.
I love you guys.
Love you.
Bye. There's your cold open. Bye.